The impeachment of Joe Biden has begun. Okay. It's an impeachment probe first. And there are some GOP witnesses saying there is not yet enough evidence to actually impeach Joe Biden. I believe those witnesses are wrong. I think all of this is playing politics. I think when you look at the evidence released by the GOP so far, there's more than enough for an impeachment. The problem I have with these proceedings is that they pretend impeachment is conviction. This has been true for every impeachment in my lifetime, which is, I guess, 3, right? Everybody thinks that if a president is impeached, he's gone. No, impeachment means indictment, and you can indict a ham sandwich. The purpose of the inquiry right now to Joe Biden is to determine if what we know about what he was doing reaches the level of high crimes and misdemeanors against this country. I believe it does. And I think the Burisma scandal breaks down more than a preponderance of evidence that Joe Biden intervened in foreign affairs for the benefit of his son. That's not a conviction. It's an indictment. The Senate can then hear the evidence and determine whether or not they want to remove Joe Biden. Now, maybe this is one way they get rid of Joe Biden, because there's a lot of speculation that Joe Biden drops out. Democrats don't want him. And outside of the impeachment, I love this because we got all the stories for you, right? Aside from the fact that the media, I love this one. Republicans launch Biden impeachment probe with no new evidence. I love it. Why would they launch the investigation into Biden if they already have the evidence? Jeez. The point is, there is evidence enough to where they've said, okay, hold on. We're going to investigate this and see where this goes. And then New York Daily News is like, no new evidence. Well, that's the point of the probe, dude. It's probing Joe Biden's business affairs and his career to determine if there's new evidence to be found. Ridiculous. But we actually have, I think maybe it's, here we go, from the Daily Mail. Biden 80 should, quote, ride off into the sunset. Despairing Democrat insiders call for president to retire or allow a wide open primary in 2024 with him one trip away from disaster. So look, Republicans are trying to get rid of Joe Biden. Democrats are also trying to get rid of Joe Biden. I have to imagine that at some point, they're going to get rid of Joe Biden. I mean, I don't see how he wins. He's trailing in the polls. Trump is winning. And you have Democrats and Republicans saying, out, you got to go. Here's a story from the Daily News. Now, I do want to read this because I think the media take is very interesting, but we have this from oversight.house.gov. The Biden's influence peddling timeline. Oh, yeah. I brought the receipts. Don't get me wrong. The receipts came from the GOP, but I'll read what they said. Statements of fact. Here's the first story. The Daily News says Republicans were set to launch their impeachment inquiry of President Biden Thursday with a congressional hearing that is expected to lay out questions about his behavior, but no evidence of wrongdoing. I think it's just absolutely hilarious how they lie every time. Sorry, man. I'm sick of the lies. I am just so sick of these scumbags. Who wrote this? Dave Goldener, a piece of trash scumbag. I despise these people. The Republicans released evidence. Look at this, a timeline. They even have fancy graphics. Fancy graphics. They put a lot of work into this timeline. Ukraine. Oh, boy. Yeah, we'll go through it. No evidence. No evidence of wrongdoing. Are you kidding? There's an insane amount of evidence of wrongdoing. He's not been convicted. That's the difference. 3 GOP-led House committees plan to use the high-stakes hearing to lay out legal issues they believe are raised by their long-running probes into alleged ties to his son Hunter's business dealings. The debut hearing won't feature any witnesses with information about Biden or his son's tangled business deals. Instead, it will feature outside experts in tax law, criminal investigations, and constitutional law. Sounds a lot less compelling, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm going to tell you what they're doing. The Republicans are slow rolling this. They want to draw this whole thing out as long as possible so that it extends into next year. They want this to hurt Joe Biden in the 2024 election. Here's what the Oversight Committee has published. And yes, lots of evidence. I'm really excited for the timeline. They write, I wonder if I can, okay, there we go. We can structure it a little bit better. Zoom in. Since taking the gavel in January, the Committee on Oversight and Accountability has accelerated its investigation of the Biden family's domestic and international business practices to determine whether the Biden family has been targeted by foreign actors. President Biden is compromised and our national security is threatened. Records obtained through the committee's subpoenas to date reveal that the Bidens and their associates have received over $20 million in payments from foreign entities. Right there, that in of itself is called evidence. Does it mean you committed a crime? No. Does it mean you are proven guilty? No. Does it prove any criminal activity at all? No. Evidence is not proof. I made this point before because there's a lot of people who don't quite understand it. Typically, I'd assume these are like Democrats and there's no evidence. Okay, let's tell you. Here's a story. There is a grocery store, a small corner store. Let's call it a bodega, like they do in New York. And one day, the store clerk is found murdered. And there's shell casings for a .22 long rifle, rounds found scattered about. And then they sure enough find, yes, the store clerk was killed by several shots from a .22 LR. Now, what could this mean? Long rifle could also be used in handguns, could be used in rifles, and so they have a general idea. Down the street, there's a man who is known to be quarreling with this store clerk. And so they go and ask him questions. And sure enough, what do they find? On the back wall in his home, clearly visible at the front door, is a Ruger 10/22. Oh, my stars and garters. A guy who hated the clerk. He had motive. He had opportunity. He has the weapon. All of this is evidence. It is. Well, maybe not opportunity. I'm reaching. But let's just say he has motive and a similar weapon. These things don't prove anything, but they are evidence. Evidence enough to where they can say, this man was known to be quarreling based on witness testimony with the store clerk a day earlier. And he does have a weapon clearly visible that takes 10/22. We believe this is a sufficient probable cause, meaning there is indication, information, and physical objects which point to him as the killer. So what do? They say, we want you to answer some questions. You're a person of interest. You're a suspect. They get a warrant for the weapon. They do testing on it. They bring this man in for questioning. He brings in his lawyer. Uh-oh. While they did have initial evidence that pointed to this man, turns out the guy actually has not only receipts from out of town on the day of the murder, not only that, but he has photographs with him and his buddies. The weapon was with him as they went and, I don't know, were hunting small game or something. And he says, look, guys, I may have been fighting with a guy, but it wasn't that serious. I was arguing over returning a spoiled milk. I have no real interest in the guy whatsoever. And here's a photo of me and all my friends. Here's me camping. I was not here. And they say, okay, well, initially people did think that shell casings found near his home and a similar weapon proved, or it was providing evidence. The evidence ultimately led nowhere, did not prove it. Now, that's my general understanding. Evidence does not prove anything. Why? There are numerous criminal trials where the prosecutions present evidence to the jury and the person gets acquitted, which means evidence is not proof. With the evidence we have against Joe Biden, we are now going to build a case to determine if it can prove beyond a reasonable doubt criminal activity. Okay, now that I've given you a basic and needless for most of you lesson in the general ideas, let's jump to the timeline. This is so cool. Thank you, Republicans, for making this neat little graphic. 2009, Obama and Biden administration begins. Oh, there's a little exclamation point, too. Oh, that's so important. 2013, China BHR, November 1st. Hunter Biden, business associate, and Chinese investors agree to create Bohai Harvest RST Equity Investment Fund Management Co., Ltd. That's a mouthful. An investment fund controlled by the Bank of China called BHR, the company BHR, to focus on mergers and acquisitions and investment and in reforms of state-owned enterprise. December 4th, here's a photo of a Chinese businessman. Vice President Biden travels with Hunter Biden on Air Force Two to China and meets CEO of BHR, Jonathan Lee. Shortly thereafter, BHR's licenses were approved and Hunter Biden was a board member. Thanks for the free ride, Joe. Done. We're done. We're done. That right there is enough. Hey, whoa. What was Joe Biden doing flying his son on Air Force Two for a private equity deal in China? That right there, I believe, is enough to open an investigation. Okay, well, that's what the Republicans are doing. Shall we continue? You mean there's more? 2014, Kazakhstan. Hunter Biden met Kazakhstani oligarch Kenis Rakishev at the Hay Adams Hotel in Washington, D.C. An email correspondence with the Devon Archer surrounding the meeting. Rakishev requested Secretary of State John Kerry visit Kazakhstan. Archer replied, if we have some business started as planned, I will ensure it's planned soonest. Rekeshev is a Kazakhstani oligarch and millionaire and was a director at Kazakhstan's state-owned oil company, K-Mune Gas. Rekeshev maintained close ties to Karim Masimov, who became prime minister on April 2nd, 2014. Next, Russia. Russian oligarch Yelena Baturina, the wealthiest woman in Russia and then married to former mayor of Moscow, wired the Rosemont Seneca Thornton bank account $3.5 million. Rosemont Seneca Thornton's beneficiary was Rosemont Seneca Partners, of which Hunter Biden was the chairman. Interesting. March 11th, 2014, Russian oligarch payment to Hunter Biden and Devon Archer, as outlined right here. Rosemont Seneca Thornton transferred $2.75 million to a Rosemont Seneca Bohai bank account. Also on March 11, 2014, a $750,000 of the original wire from Baturina was sent to Devon Archer from Rosemont Seneca Thornton. Rosemont Seneca Bohai was an entity used by both Hunter Biden and Devon Archer. In his testimony to the committee, Archer confirmed that he and Hunter Biden were 50-50 owners in Rosemont Seneca Bohai. Rosemont Seneca Bohai was opened in Delaware on February 13th, 2014, the day before the $3.5 million wire from Yelena Baturina. The bank records can be found here in Third Bank Records Memo. Hard documents, bank proof. Now, of course, what they're saying is, no, hold on. Hunter Biden's receiving all this money. As you may be forgetting right now, my Democrat friends, we've already started with Joe Biden flew his son to meet with these people in China. Okay, the premise is Hunter Biden was flown by Vice President Joe Biden on Air Force Two to China, and he then met with his Chinese business partners. He then received licenses. Joe Biden was involved. So you mean to tell me Hunter Biden's like, hey, Dad, can I fly with you to China? Yeah, sure thing, son. What are you going to China for? Don't worry about it. Sure thing. Please. And do they have the photo? Like, here's a photo of Hunter Biden with business associates and Joe Biden. Spare me. All right, what's next? Russia and Kazakhstan, Ukraine. Oh, I love this one. Burisma, a Ukrainian energy company, appoints Biden business associates to their board of directors. Kazakhstan. Oh, man, hard records. Kenes Rekeshev's Singaporean company wires $142,000 through his Latvian company to a Rosemont entity. The details can be found in a Third Bank Records memorandum. Hey, look, more hard document proof. This is proof that the money was wired, not proof of criminal activity. You see my point? All right, what do we got? In Ukraine, Joe Biden warns of a cancer of corruption. Kazakhstan again. Let's stick to Ukraine. May 12th, 2014, Burisma announces Hunter Biden joins its board of directors. Okay, you got a bunch of other stuff. BHR invests $1.7 billion in CCP-linked petroleum and chemical company. Hunter Biden associates invest $484,000 into BHR. Well connected. Let's carry on. There's a lot here, to be completely honest. I'm skipping over Romania and China. Ukraine, November 2nd, 2015. Vadim Pozharsky suggests high-level U.S. level officials come to Ukraine and talk with Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin and President Petro Poroshenko about Mykola Zlochevsky's investigations. Prosecutor General Shokin was investigating Burisma and Burisma's owner Zlochevsky for fraud. Prosecutor General Shokin is the Ukrainian government official Vice President Biden demanded Poroshenko fire. Oof. Now, I do think they should have included what we know is that Devon Archer testified that Burisma needed help from D.C. because of the investigations into Burisma. Let's jump to where we get the, here we go. November 11th, Ukraine. Amos Hochstein meets with Vice President Biden in the West Wing. November 12th, Amos calls Hunter Biden. Very interesting. Hunter Biden meets with an ambassador to Romania. November 13th, here we go, an archive of a Biden tweet. VP touchdown in Ukraine last night. Read his initial notes from the road. What's he doing there? What's he doing there? Vadim Pozharsky emails Hunter Biden confirmation that the vice president will be traveling to Ukraine. Ooh, how about that? December 4th, 2015, Mykola Zlochevsky and Vadim Pozharsky complain about the constant government pressures and urge Hunter Biden to call the vice president of the United States, Joe Biden. Devon Archer testified that Hunter Biden, Zlochevsky, and Pozharsky called D.C. Devon Archer provided this information during his transcribed interview. How about that? We'll skip down to Ukraine. Here's a video. Vice President Biden arrives in Ukraine where he demands Prosecutor General Shokin be fired if Ukraine wants $1 billion in International Monetary Fund loans. Well, how about that? Vice President Biden departs Ukraine and gets a commitment from President Poroshenko that Shokin, Prosecutor General, will be fired. Vice President hosts a holiday party at the vice presidential residence, which Amos Hochstein and Hunter Biden both attend. And I'm skipping over all this other stuff. I'm focusing on Ukraine. Vice President Biden meets with President Poroshenko in Switzerland at the World Economic Forum, where Biden reinforces the linkage between the loan guarantee and the necessary reforms. Mykola Zlochevsky gives Hunter Biden unspecified extravagant birthday gifts on February 4th, 2016. Vice President Biden and President Poroshenko conduct a call. Ukraine. President Poroshenko asks Prosecutor General Shokin to resign. This is a few months later. Vice President Biden calls Poroshenko to thank him for calling on the resignation. Poroshenko says he received the letter of resignation. I mean, this is just, it's laid out right in front of you. Ukrainian parliament approves Poroshenko's firing of Prosecutor General. And, oh man, there's so much more. It's so incredible. Ultimately, what ends up happening, and I don't know if they include this in their timeline, which they should, is that Zlochevsky fled the country during the investigations, and he returned once the investigator was removed. Now, there's a whole bunch of China links here. I mean, I got to be honest with you guys. If I was going to read through all of the evidence, I just can't do it. This is going to be like a 2-hour breakdown. I was skipping over a bunch of the other evidence to just focus on Ukraine. Woo! I know a lot of you probably saying like, okay, dude, boring. We get it. But isn't it funny that we have this? Holy crap, is it long? I cannot read through all of this stuff. It goes into it's 2019. There's more. 2020. Here we go. More Ukraine stuff. Now we've got 2023, bank records, family dealings, Biden lying, all of this stuff. Heavens, there's too much for me to read, man. My point is this. I think at this point, there's so much evidence. It's overwhelming. Now, to be fair, they say that there's not enough evidence. There are many Republicans. Do we actually have this one pulled up? Anxiety rips through Democrat. I don't know. There's a couple. I think Jonathan Turley, as well as another expert, said there's not enough to actually impeach. Okay, GOP witness Jonathan Turley, who defended Trump, said the evidence against Joe Biden has not yet amounted to an impeachable offense. Okay, but hold on. Are you saying impeachment, impeachable offense in the conviction sense? Right, that's the important question. They would have mentioned top oversight Democrat Jamie Raskin made a motion to subpoena Rudy Giuliani and Lev Parnas. I think Jamie Raskin's evil. To make sure that's clear, the dude works like 20 minutes from us. Several of our employees are his constituents, and I think he's an evil man. I really do, man. I think this guy is malicious. I think he knows he's lying. Or it's a combination of malice as well as the banality of evil. But the reason is it's fairly personal. He ran a video of me reporting the news and commenting on it and claimed it was advocacy for January 6th. These people are disgusting. It's what they do. Many of these activists claim that I pushed the fraud narrative. And it's like, dude, I got ragged on relentlessly by Trump supporters for rejecting the fraud narrative, to which I still do. The narrative about Trump's defeat has more to do with Democrats changing the rules. That's why Texas sued Pennsylvania. All that stuff is overt and plainly visible. Republicans in Pennsylvania agreed with Democrats on changing voting rules. They didn't want Trump in. But I digress. This is what they do. Now Raskin is deflecting. Look, the evidence is so overwhelming against Joe Biden, I can't even read through all of it. What am I supposed to do? There's so much evidence. Does it lead to the point of provable? I believe there's more than enough evidence, if you read through it, that you could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Joe Biden has committed high crimes and misdemeanors against this country, in which case he should be convicted and removed. Now, that requires a trial, which I don't think will ever convict Joe Biden because we're in a banana republic. I mean, it's probably unfair to say banana republic because like we are the ones who did it. But this country is a shell. Seriously. We were swatted 15 times. Where's our justice? We know we're pretty confident we know who did it. We told law enforcement. We said, here, look. And they were like, nothing happened. Nothing happened. Why? Because it's all hyper-partisan hyperpolarization. You get these crazy stories where it's like the FBI is actually working tirelessly behind the scenes to solve crimes. No, they're not. The FBI, in my view, does solve some crimes because they need to justify their existence. But for the most part, I believe the FBI exists as a weapon of the establishment political order. They will investigate crimes against people that are a threat to them. That's it. They are a secret police force to uphold the regime. End of story. And I'm not saying Democrats, I'm saying Democrats and Republicans. That's why when we get swatted 15 times, they don't do anything. It's been over a year. It's been almost 2 years. It's crazy, right? Almost 2 years. And no contact, no information. Our security companies reached out and they just say nothing. So, okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt a little bit. Maybe they're working in secret and it's going to take a long time, take years. Yeah, I doubt it. We know for the most part why the swattings stopped. And And we've relayed this information to law enforcement. We just get nothing. The local police have been very, very cool, but they just don't have the resources, and they've tried to pursue these things, but it's really hard to do. I don't believe, and we've also had other instances of identity theft and data theft and things like this. I won't say too much about. And the response was $1 million won't move the needle. $1 million. That's crazy. No, I think the reality is when they hunt down some like little old lady over January 6th, it ain't about the money, is it? It's not. And thus what we have right now is a corruption in the system. Law enforcement being used as a weapon. Joe Biden should be impeached. Republicans should impeach him. Right now, they're saying the evidence doesn't rise to that level. I think they're wrong. I think we have more than enough evidence to launch an impeachment and a criminal inquiry. Of course, you got to impeach him first. And of course, Democrats don't want Joe Biden either. So I got to say, between the Democrats saying Joe Biden's got to go and the Republicans trying to forcefully remove him through impeachment and conviction, I don't see how this guy stays. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. You know, there are a lot of people who think he'll be the nominee. Sure. Anyway, check out the evidence for yourself. It's there's too much. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on the channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.